26th of March 2012. This article on Hindustan Times was published. York raises a toast to a 23-year-old. The 23-year-old in question over here was a young boy named Kailash who had just moved back to India from Australia with a degree in winemaking. This article said that he would go up against the giants of the Indian wine industry who have overseas expertise. In this article, Kailash said that he doesn't like to think about competition because it adds unnecessary pressure. All I can do is apply what I know, he said. It's been almost 85 months since then, and today he's standing here in front of you to share his journey. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kailash, and once upon a time, I was India's youngest winemaker at the age of 23. Now, this happened in the year 2012 because of an incident that took place in 2005. My father was putting together the last pieces of his puzzle to set up York Winery, his passion project in Nashik. And he believed that it was very important for someone in the family to be an expert in winemaking, as it would be an asset for the company in the future. And because I was the only one in the family who had not started university as yet, the question came to me. And it was simple. Would you be interested to be a winemaker? Now, at the time, I didn't know what a winemaker looked like. I didn't know what he dressed like. I didn't know what he did. But then I was also a 16-year-old boy, and I thought to myself, why would anyone in their right mind turn down an opportunity to be in the business of booze, right? What could possibly go wrong? Now, 2005 was also the year when YouTube was founded, and 2006 was the year when Facebook opened up its platform to the rest of the world. So while every young kid in India was thinking to go west and be a part of the mobile and tech revolution, my life went south. My life went to the land down under in Australia because that's where I'd enrolled myself in a 4-year bachelor's degree in winemaking. So the next few years, when I went to Australia, the first few days and weeks is all about putting yourself out there, making new friends and meeting new people. And I was out there excited to start a new journey of my life, and I was trying to get to know people and trying to know what they were studying and what were the reasons why they were studying that. And people were telling me they were doing engineering, medicine, psychology, economics, music, marine biology, and all these things. And then when it was my turn to say what I was doing, I was really happy and excited. I was like, I'm going to study winemaking. I'm going to learn how to make wine. But then that moment of joy lasted only for 2 or 3 seconds. Because what I got in exchange was blank faces, shock and awe. People were like, how hard can it be? I mean, are you going to be drinking alcohol for 4 years and you're going to get a degree at the end of that? I mean, it's just a walk in the park. I could do that. Then one day I was walking back home from the bus stop, and this one thing struck me. In fact, it was 2 things that I realized. One was that all the good-looking women were in economics, psychology, or medicine. So I was in the wrong class. But the other thing that really hit me hard was I realized that I was different. I was different to everyone else around me. I was different to all my immediate friends who were doing engineering or medicine or economics. And slowly, I started to feel lonely in that crowd. Because the problem of being different is that you don't get empathy. No one understands you. No one can relate to you. No one really knows what you're going through. You don't get any sort of guidance because people, of course, don't know anything about you. And feedback, forget about it. If anyone's going to give you any feedback, chances are it's not of any use. But then I decided that I'm just going to embrace the fact that I was different. And I'm just going to not lose sight of this goal, this dream, this vision I had of coming back to India and making wine. So I studied in Australia from the year 2006 to 2010. And it was in those 5 years that I learned everything I know about winemaking today. It's where I trained my palate. It's where I learned all about wines from Australia, wines from other parts of the world. But then when I came back to India, I had a very big problem. I was making wine in a country that was climatically very different to Australia, and I was making wine for an audience that was very different to Australians. So it was not a simple case of just copy and paste. I needed a plan. And of course, I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a guide, I didn't have anyone to lean on to, and someone to tell me, hey, this is what you got to do, and then after a few years, you're all on your own. So then I decided to go out and I met people. I met people who were making Indian wine, I met people who were drinking Indian wine. And everyone told me one thing. They're like, Kailash, don't overthink this. People in India love sweet stuff. Make it sweet, you will be in business. Don't worry. But that didn't solve my problem because I questioned that idea. I'm like, why do I make something that people are already drinking? What's my purpose? That's not what I'm here for. And will I be happy in making something that I myself will not enjoy drinking? Should I make something from the consumer's point of view, or should I make something from my point of view? And this other thing I realize about people in India, like we feel that because alcohol does not taste very good on its own, you either need to sweeten it up or you need to dilute it down. Well, that is not true because there's a lot of amazing alcohol out there that tastes delicious just on its own. And the other thing is that people associate sugar with flavor. And these are two different things. Something being sweet does not necessarily mean that it has a lot of flavor. And something does not have to be sweet in order to be flavorsome. So I took this idea of flavor. I adopted everything that I'd learned in the last 4 to 5 years in Australia, and I put it all together, and I started to make the wines that I enjoyed drinking. I was enjoying what I was making. I didn't really care about whether people liked it or not. It began from me. And as a result of that approach, my wine showed authenticity and it showed originality. And I can tell you one thing, even if people like your product or not, they will always appreciate it for being original. They'll always appreciate it for being authentic, because no one likes an old wine in a new bottle. Now, after doing this for a few years, I had one more challenge which I had to overcome. I wanted to prove to myself more than the world that I was good at this, that I was not just being lucky from one year to the next and just, things just falling in place by itself. And winemaking is not something like building a building where you've got your foundations and you keep adding floors. Every year is a new year. The climate is different. You as a person are no longer the same. When we prune our vineyards, we get fresh canes which give fresh grapes. And this fruit ripens and matures under the open sky, completely exposed and vulnerable to the cycles of nature. Nature determines your destiny. I mean, that's your raw material. You have to make wine out of something you get. You have absolutely no control over it. And if you make one mistake, you have to wait for 12 months before you can fix it. You can't afford to make a mistake. Now, in this entire process, the only two things that I really focused on was not worrying about competition, because often we get caught up with what people are doing. We're like, he's doing that, I need to do this. Oh, he's doing this, I need to get ahead of him and try and come up with something else. But that's just unnecessary distraction. I didn't worry about what they were doing. I knew what they were doing, but I just focused on my job. Now, when I finished studying in the year 2010, the winery that I ended up working in as an intern was something like this. It was a huge place, and there was me there. I was just another intern, just another winemaking graduate in a huge facility. And these were the times when selfies didn't exist, so you remember setting a timer on your phone and keeping it on a flat surface and praying that the phone didn't fall down. I mean, my phone nearly fell in a tank of wine quite a few times because I was just trying to take selfies everywhere I went. But then after I came back to India and 5 to 6 years of work, life started to look a little bit like this. I was getting opportunities to talk about my wine and taste my wines with people not only in India but also overseas. Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, London, Paris, Beijing, Hong Kong. These are the places where I've gotten a chance to present my wines, purely because they were original and they tasted unique. They reflected who I was. I started getting messages from friends saying that your wine was absolutely amazing. It was the best wine I've had. Strangers sending emails saying your wine is fabulous, thanking me for putting together a wine that was perfectly blended and put together. And not to forget being on the cover page of one of India's premier wine magazines. Now, I entered the world of winemaking in the year 2005, and it's taught me a lot about life. But these are the 5 things that winemaking has taught me. Number 1, it's okay to be different. We spend too much time, effort, and energy in trying to fit in with the rest of the world and rest of the society. If we just accepted who we are, if we just embraced ourselves, we'll open up a whole new world of opportunities in front of us. Number 2, you define your philosophy. Don't get worried about people's ideas, opinions, and what they think you should do. Your philosophy has to be you. It has to come from within. And if you follow yourself, you'll never ever be conflicted in doing anything. And number 3, patience. When we plant a vineyard in the soil, it takes 3 years before it can bear fruit that's good enough to make wine. And then another 2 years before it's mature and ready to drink. 5 years is what it takes from idea to execution to completion. And just like good wine, everything in life takes time. Number 4, do it once, do it right, and do it on time. When we pick our grapes from the vineyards, we're on a tight schedule. We have to do everything right, because I know what it's like to live with that regret of what if I had put in that extra hour at work? What if I'd just done my job? What if I'd just done it right the first time? Now I don't have to sit and salvage all of this. And number 5 is detachment. Generally, we tend to be very emotional about everything we do. And especially if there's something that we've brought to life or something that we've created, detachment is very difficult for us. But that's very important. Once you've completed a project, learn your lessons, move on. Now, I was running some numbers over the last few weeks, and I just realized that in the last 7 years, more than 2 million bottles of wine that were crafted under me have been shipped out of my winery. And I find it absolutely amazing. And I find it absolutely amazing that I have played a small role in shaping up more than 2 million different memories, helping people come together, helping people laugh, helping people celebrate, helping people love, and of course, helping people forget. But then I don't wake up every single day thinking how I can make an impact in the life of 2 million people. I don't think that big. I think a lot smaller. When I wake up every single day, the only thing I think is how I can be a better version of myself. How can I do everything I did yesterday just better today? It's simple. Excellence is all about doing the small things right. That's it. Thank you.